and foremost, the RMT Scotland voted for, by a majority, for independence. We make no apology for that. The past we inherit, the future we build. An old mining NUM trade union slogan, and it's something, as trade unionists, we are delighted to associate ourselves with the independence campaign, independence fight. RMT Scotland had meetings in every city in Scotland as we engaged with the membership. We had on average 100 members at those meetings. It was clear that a consensus of opinion was for independence. However, RMT, being a fighting and democratic union, we still sought the mandate from the 10,500 members we have in Scotland. Members, through a referendum ballot, voted by a majority for independence. And incidentally, not just like other unions who held their annual conference, debated the issue of independence and rejected the call for independence. We, as an RMT trade union, a fighting democratic campaigning union, engaged with the membership, had meetings in every city in Scotland, and we were still not happy with the meetings. We had to get a true reflection of the membership, hence the reason why we favoured a referendum ballot, and as a result of that ballot was a majority for independence. It's what we call engaging with the membership. I believe an independent Scotland, and RMT believes an independent Scotland voting yes will be an opportunity to eradicate poverty and consign food banks to the history books. I further believe an independent Scotland will be a force for good internationally and a beacon of hope and inspiration to the working class communities throughout Scotland. An independent Scotland is now RMT policy, and my union will be strongly recommending to the Scottish RMT members to vote yes on Thursday, the 18th of September, as we aspire to deliver a fairer Scotland, free of injustice and more in line in delivering a social justice agenda that aspires to equality and fairness. RMT has fought inequality for decades. We see independence as a fabulous opportunity for workers to reinstate our values as a Westminster model for working man and the working woman is well and truly broken. And we always end up worst off. Remember the poll tax, an absolute disaster. Is the status quo a real option? In my opinion, the status quo is no longer an option. And we must vote for independence if we are ever to have a chance of ending austerity, food banks, zero-hour contracts, and social injustice. It's time for change. It's time for a new beginning under the banner of independence. I'm certainly not arguing that independence has all answers to all the problems. However, Labour and the Westminster model has failed. It is broken. Take Trident, weapons of mass destruction. Who in their right mind is going to press the button? It'll be the end as we know it. Yet we spend billions. Why not spend the same billions on our economy, schools and hospitals? Makes absolute, logical, financial sense. And when you ask the young mothers what they want to see when you mention Trident, the response is quite robust. Bairns, not bombs. Therefore, friends, because as far as my trade union is concerned, there is a compelling and overwhelming case for independence. Vote with your heart. Vote for a chance. Vote for a new beginning. Vote for independence. Thank you.
I want to start by saying it's squeaky bum time for the British establishment, for the Westminster establishment, for the bankers, for the Tories, for the billionaires, the length and breadth of this country. We now know that we're neck and neck on what we were told for years. The impossible is now possible. The unthinkable is now thinkable. You almost have to pinch yourself for getting too excited about the opportunity of making history here. And I have to say, the sight of the Three Stooges arriving in Scotland this week, you know, Clegg, Miliband and Cameron, I think there's to an extent, as soon as they arrive, they automatically probably swing the thing 1 or 2 points because they're that unpopular. I mean, you should remember about Nick Clegg. Think of the Three Stooges. What's Clegg famous for? Clegg said he would get rid of tuition fees. He's a liar. So we shouldn't take any lectures for him on supporting students and free education. Also, when it comes to Miliband, he says we're better together, we're stronger together, that workers are better united. I ask the question, how can that possibly be better for workers north and south of the border when he's agreed to stick to Tory spending limits? £25 billion worth of cuts that are still to come. And I can't forget wee Jim Murphy. You know, what I call, you've got Prescott, he's 2 Jags Prescott, Murphy's 2 crates Murphy, cutting about these iron brew crates. And for an audience of students, for him to lecture us on supporting students, we should remember it was Jim Murphy, who is the president of the National Union of Students, who voted to abolish grants and introduce loans. So no lectures from Murphy in supporting students in the universities and on the campuses. And Cameron, when he was up yesterday, he said this is not about the effing Tories. It is about the effing Tories. It's about getting rid of the effing Tories. And when the campaign started, when it started off quite friendly, I say it started off with the intervention from Mars. That's David Bowie. When Bowie tells us, you know, you need to be able to listen to the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and you need to defend your culture. And then he moved on to EastEnders. You won't be able to watch EastEnders. Who's for that? I take exception to Doctor Who, but certainly EastEnders. And then I talked to a young person that I work with. He said I read in the newspaper here that they're going to ban Buckfast if we vote for independence. I said, is that true? I said, I mean, the extent to which they're going. The worst one that I've seen in terms of Project Fear was the woman for the 1950s or 20s maybe. I mean, the only thing that didn't exist there was a kitchen sink. We hooked tied to the kitchen sink. The worst form of sexism and patronising attitude to women you could possibly have. One of the funny ones that I think was the funniest was when the Pope said he was against it. All of a sudden, all these orange communities were divided. They were going, not quite sure what my position on this is anymore. Could cause some divisions. The point I'm making is that the scare stories have been disgusting, they've been miserable, they've been pessimistic. They've all been centred around you'll lose your jobs, your pensions, you'll lose your childcare, you'll lose the NHS if you vote for independence. Unbelievable, the scare stories. Now I'm not going to spend a lot of time challenging the scare stories because I'm sure Tommy and other folk will go into it in a bit more detail. I quote the Financial Times on it, right? The Financial Times ran a series 3 months ago called Should Scotland Go? Now their view was Scotland shouldn't go. They said if it did go, it'd be the 14th richest country in the world. It was salivating over its hydrocarbon bounty, over its oil and its natural resources, and it said it would be the 14th richest country in the world with a per capita income £1,000 higher than the rest of the UK. So that's nonsense that it couldn't be a viable independent state. The question for us is that we want a redistribution of power and wealth from the top to the bottom of our society. And I tell you what, we need it. I read a figure the other day about what the top 10% earn in Scotland compared to the bottom 10%. 174 times more that separates the top 10% and the bottom 10%. If you look at global wealth figures, the top 85 richest people in the world, you can fit them on a double-decker bus. They earn the same amount of wealth as the bottom 3.5 billion in the population. How disgusting is that? That's what we're fighting for. That's the vision, that's the change that we are campaigning for when we fight for independence. And I want to talk briefly about working class people's interests in this fight. Because when Cameron comes and says, we're going to save the NHS if you vote to stay in the union, well, why is it they won't even give nurses and health workers a bloody 1% pay rise? It's an absolute disgrace. And we should support, on the 18th of October, we should support all the health workers who are striking to defend their pay and to keep the NHS public. We know these ratbags want to privatise it. And when the Labour Party tell us we're better together, we should say that is absolute hypocrisy. There's one thing that turned my stomach. When Joanne Lamont says we can't live in a something-for-nothing society. That's what they're saying to the poorest people in a society. I'll tell you who lives in a something-for-nothing society. The bankers live in a something-for-nothing society. They're the scoundrels. They're the cheats. They're the robbers in our society. And that's what we're fighting against. Also, I think it's very important that we raise the kind of future Britain that we're talking about. It is not impossible that you could have a Cameron government with that scumbag Farage, who I believe we should say is not welcome in Scotland when he comes here in the next couple of days. Farage is not welcome because what they want to do is let the bankers off the hook and blame poor people and immigrants for a crisis caused by bankers. And we should say, when they say blame the Romanians and the Bulgarians, we should say blame the bloody Etonians. They're the people that cause our final point is we have an opportunity to make history here. The next 2 weeks, we have to blood, sweat and tears to reach the undecideds. And we need a vision of defending public services, of public control over railways, water, gas, electricity, and I would say our oil industry as well. Ratcliffe, Ineos, holding an entire industry and country to ransom. In those situations, we should say we'll nationalise these industries and take them back into public ownership. My absolute final point is that the best act of solidarity we can give to our brothers and sisters south of the border is to make Cameron history. That's the opportunity here, to make Cameron history, the Tories history, Britain history, and poverty history. Let's go for it, everyone. comrades, brothers and sisters, we stand here today, a week away from one of the most important events in my lifetime, and probably every year's lifetime. A week away from a chance to change society and change Britain and break up capitalist Britain forever. Now last week what we've seen, opinion poll, first opinion poll voting yes. What do we get? Project fear disappearing overnight to come project panic. Project panic, when you have all the sides of the unionist campaign running around, chasing each other's tails. We promise you the world, please vote no. The media jumping on the bandwagon and all that. We've got to be clear on it. How do we fight back against that? Because that has affected certain sections. It has affected in people's heart fear. We have to put forward an answer to that. But the answer today, when you're John Lewis economy, we'll move out of Scotland, the prices will go up. With the Royal Bank of Scotland, we'll move away and close down all these jobs. We'll, on all the Stand Line come and say, move away, we'll close down this and that and that. What is the answer to that? Not as some say, oh, we should cut corporation tax for yes and invite it. Well, the answer to that's quite clear. We will nationalise this. Yes. You'll not go anywhere. The job will stay in Scotland under our control and responsibility. That is the answer. No getting down for that. No trying to be in two camps at once. The camps of big business, cooperate with big business, and also Mr. Worker, we'll look after you as well. You tend to take a side. And the side is on the workers. This is what it's about. It's how we present what type of Scotland. How do we get a yes vote? It's present a Scotland for the workers, not for the bosses. That's how we get a yes vote. And also in the trade unions, great to hear the RMT come up and say how they've done the campaign. My union this week has put out this to every member in Scotland. Vote no. That is, our branch is quite proud of our record. Very proud of our record. We helped form Trade Union for Independence for Scotland North 2 branch. We had meetings, unlike other branches in Scotland. We've had 2 AGMs. First AGM, we passed a motion in which Dave Ward, the Deputy General Secretary, attended. We passed a motion saying we were favouring a yes campaign over 18 months, almost 2 years ago now. We passed that motion. Last year's AGM, we had a debate. We had a yes speaker, Derek Duncan, and we had a no speaker, a Labour councillor, came on this week. We debated it with our members. We took it out to our members, and our members quite clearly supported yes. We had a motion going to conference to ask the union not to have a neutral stance, but no recommendation at all, which was we couldn't be heard because the right-wing leadership of our union put forward a no campaign to hang on the tailcoats of the Labour Party. And that's what that was about. The Billy Hazelwood trying to lecture our branch about solidarity. Gave me a lesson. Our branch has a proud record with solidarity. We have a proud record sending coachloads of pickets around the country. When Liverpool Dockers were in dispute, we were there. Where was Billy Hayes, who is from Liverpool? That is the question. We have a proud record when other units were on strike and they send mail up to our mail centre. We don't touch it. That's what solidarity is about. Solidarity is not about him trying to preach to Scottish workers how to vote. Solidarity is about being solidarity, standing shoulder to shoulder with workers in dispute.
Yes, yes.
Royal Mail is now privatised. I attended a meeting yesterday on behalf of the CW to discuss TNT moving in to Edinburgh. TNT taking roughly about 28% of the work away from good, reasonably paid jobs in Edinburgh, replacing them with 0 contracts and all the rest that goes on with. And as raised the question, which Royal Mail agreed with, how come they're moving them yet? Are they waiting till after September 18th to see how the vote goes? They're probably that's what they say, man. So what do you think the response will be? They say, well, if there's a yes vote, they will not touch mail in Scotland. That is the reason to vote yes. Or keep labour out of the industry in Scotland. That has been recognised.
And let us take that out in the streets. Let us make that clear. Vote yes, you'll keep a decent postal service in Scotland. And they're probably terrified the so-called nationalisation, renationalisation of the SNP. I'd like to see that. But let's vote yes on that count alone. But now, September the 18th will come and go. And we have to build. We have to get a vision of a new Scotland. A vision of Scotland based on the workers. A vision of Scotland where we will nationalise the oil industry. We just don't want the tax revenues of the oil industry. We want the whole profit in the oil industry for the benefit of people. We want to build a Scotland for the workers. We want the, and people call us about solidarity. What would an independent socialist Scotland be? Be the best beacon of solidarity to the English workers, Welsh workers, Irish workers. What we've also seen during this campaign is for the first time thousands upon thousands of young people get involved in politics, which is absolutely brilliant. Thousands of people have been disillusioned with politics, not registered since the poll tax days, registered to vote. Workers' movement, workers in the housing schemes queuing up to register to vote. Although the 18th of September will come and go, we cannot let go of these people. This is a time to build a new movement in Scotland, a movement of change, a movement of socialism, a movement to defend the working class interests. So what we are now saying, and we're going to say this proudly, is we want to build a new organisation, a new party, a party of change. And what I call it, an RMT, comrades there, and our branch will be heavily involved in this, believe me. We want to call a conference of workers, trade unions and socialists after the 18th of September to form a party, because the SNP is not a party of the working class. The Labour Party will not change overnight to this radical socialist party. The workers have been left on the sidelines. Workers are now standing up and you have to be counted for. Let's move forward, comrades. Let's move forward and build a Scotland of the interest in the workers, not interest in the bankers. Let's get rid of the bankers. Let's get rid of the food banks that goes along with them and replace it with a party and a society to actually defend the interests of people sitting in this hall today.
Okay, that was fun. Okay, that was fantastic. Thank you so much to all the speakers. So we're going to move on to the question part of this evening. So I'd ask you to indicate that we do have a roving microphone to come and find you. If I can encourage everyone to be succinct so we can get across to you as many people as possible, that would be fantastic. So if we start with blue shirt just there, and then just the gentleman with the pinstripe shirt next. And then we'll go with glasses, gentleman with the glasses just down there.
Hello, Gordon Davey from your house, North Edinburgh. I'm 65 years old, and all my life I have seen the British government send young men and some young women abroad to dominate other people's countries, to bomb other people's countries. I've seen the British government support to the hilt Israel, bombing the Palestinians, smashing Palestinians' thousands of pieces. And not a single one of the three men who are now roaming Scotland freely did a single thing or spoke a single word to condemn the massacre of 2,000 people in Gaza when they could have and should have. So on the 18th of September, do one thing. Vote that never again a British state tries to dominate and control the world as the puppy dog of the United States. That never again we send one man in the blood to kill other people and to be killed themselves. We stop it on September the 18th. There'll be no British state to send people abroad because we will destroy the British state. Next slide.
So I'll be taking questions in units of 3, so the gentleman with the pinstripe shirt, just up there.
Hi, Ian Drummond from the Respect Party. I apologise for heckling. I shouldn't have done that. I'm glad I'm getting a chance to make my speech properly now. The reason I got so het up was because it's something that when I heard it from Salmond in the debates, from the official Yes campaign, the stuff about the NHS, as a socialist I really object to it. This assumption that the NHS is going to be cheaper because of the Tory reforms in England, which I completely abominate, is completely Thatcherite. The idea that public bad, private good, public costly, private cheap. It'll only be cheaper if they're better at it, and if they're doing it for nothing. Obviously none of us think that. We should all watch Michael Moore's brilliant film Sickle, which shows up the American healthcare system, not just for being the most iniquitous in the world, but actually the most inefficient. It's much more taxpayers' money goes towards healthcare in the United States to line the pockets of these capitalists, and then we can't even get an operation out of it. Now, I could go on all night, but I do have my own meeting tomorrow in the Usher Hall, 7:30. So you can come along to hear more left-wing arguments. I do have a question. If all these things are going to happen after a yes vote, why does Rupert Murdoch want one?
Piss off, will you?
Gentleman in the glasses just stand it. If I could encourage everyone not to heckle, please, that would be great.
That was worth a heckle. Thank you very much. Sorry, it's got everybody else cute in the whole world.
Good evening. My name is Barry McGuire. I'm from Broomhouse in Edinburgh. I've worked 30 years offshore in the oil and gas industry, and just a commendation for my comrade in the RMT. I was OLC for years, and I'm now RMT. And just to put across to you all, my colleagues offshore, my comrades, English brothers and sisters, if they had the choice, they would vote for yes. Most colleagues in the North East of England, North West of England, and the Midlands, and even comrades for Wales. So please, I would like to I'm not making any comments like the man across the back about George Galloway or his getting in bed with Orm's Lodge. I would say, as a trade unionist and a socialist, the great thing is, we're not just here alone in Scotland tonight and this week. There's a lot of good brothers in England backing us up. And as Tommy says, this is for the working class of the whole of the UK, which might not last very longer, but these guys are on our side. Thank you very much.
And then I'll get round to another round of questions.
Thanks very much. Can I just be very brief with the questions? Gordon, absolutely brilliant point. We, in an independent Scotland, we're probably going to have a defence force. Personally, I'm not a big military man. I would like to see less spent in defence, more spent in health and education. But we may have to have a defence force. But we're never ever going to have an invasion force. Because we're not going to be invading. You're absolutely right, brother. An independent Scotland will give us the right to say to all these conflicts across the world, not in our name. Not in our name are we going to go and bomb and murder innocent men, women and children any longer the way the UK government have done. Not in our name. Brother Ian and I, hopefully after an independent Scotland, will continue to have more in common than we disagree about. Indeed. But I have to say it is a cheap political shot to suggest that they can pull out one person who may or may not, a rat of the highest order in the shape of Rupert Murdoch, may or may not come out for a yes vote. I couldn't give a damn. I know who has come out for a no vote. Cameron, Clegg, Farage, the Orange Order, the BNP, Britannica Party. That's the company that the no campaign is keeping, and they should be ashamed of it. Ashamed of it. There was a march in Glasgow today. 100 Labour MPs. What were they marching about? Was it against poverty? Was it against low pay? Was it against ATOS? Was it against weapons of mass destruction? No, it was to save their own bloody jobs. That's what it was about. That's what it was about. They've been sent up here to save Scotland from voting for independence. The UK establishment's hanging by a thread. We're going to cut it in a week's time. They've been sent up to try and save it. Brothers and sisters, I've heard of the charge of the Light Brigade, but now we'll get the charge of the Shite Brigade.
One is, I'm not very good at quotes, did Karl Marx say workers of the UK unite, or did he say workers of the world unite? Because I'm bloody well fed up with the idea that we need the butcher's apron of the Union Jack to get workers' unity. Labour Party member, MP, MSP, I don't know what she is. Anyway, I've got quite a lot of respect for her as an ordinary person. But she said, we can't go for higher wages in Scotland because that would mean we'd all lose our jobs. And he said, well, there's a vision for you. We've got to go for lower wages and then we'll keep our jobs. There's so much poverty from working people in their families because they're on those kind of low jobs. So, my question is, if we can win a strike in Edinburgh College that gets 22% raise for the lowest paid, that can lower the workload so that we save our jobs, if we can get mainly women workers, part-time workers off 0 hours contracts, we've got over 100 of them now onto proper employment contracts that Labour Party says that we can't do anything about. If we can do that with 500 lecturers in one little college in Scotland, what could a whole country full of working class people determined to do better do for us in Scotland?
Hello everyone, Duncan Johnson. I'm an Edinburgh laddie. Today is a special day for me. Today is the 17th anniversary of the end of the vigil, Democracy for Scotland. They said we couldn't get a Scottish Parliament. Up the arse, we got it. They say we can't win. Fuck them, we're going to do it.
Hi guys, I'm Prophet Unbelief. Tommy, I spoke to you a few weeks ago concerning things about problems with the Yes campaign and stuff like that. What we need to do is bring back the rule of law. Now, the rule of law has been established in this country for centuries. The rule of law dictates the scales of justice, right? The scales of justice of the law and the facts on both sides, right? So when the jury's in court, we can't go in front of a jury half the time. We're up in front of a tribunal. We're not in a court of law. We can't get a jury trial in this country unless it's for a crime. But we're going to court half the time anyway, and it's not a court of law, it's a tribunal. You're going in front of one of your employees. They're getting you as a mister to say that you're subservient to them as an officer. It's all Admiralty tongue. Right? So a jury's supposed to try the facts, the case, the whole law, the witnesses, everything. They were the original judge in this country. But we've not got that anymore. We go up in front of a tribunal and it's all rigged because they're all members of the bar in the City of London, which is a private sovereign state. Now, we need a right currency in this country. We need a debt-free currency. Yes, of course. A debt-free currency like they had the Bradbury pound, which was it was brought out before the First World War because the country was going into bankruptcy. Now, the Bradbury pound was interest-free, and it paid for a war effort, right? So if it's backed by the sweat of the people, how can we not develop a currency backed by that, right? And why don't we bring back the hemp plant, which is a multi-trillion-dollar crop, right? And it invigorates the soil, it cures cancer. Why don't we do all these things? We can rip this whole thing up. We can put people back in charge of Parliament. So we oversee everything, because this is our gravy. We built all this stuff anyway. So we need to rip the whole thing up and start the whole game again. With us in control. We are the power. But we need to re-establish the whole thing. The thing's not working. We're going to just get more of the same. If we get the crown and the pound again, we're not leaving anything. That's the debt currency. That's the international monetary market that's suffocating the rest of the world. We don't need that. We can develop our own tax-free currency where it's backed by the sweat of people, and we can move forward. We can bring back new technologies, which is solar power, hydrogen systems. Right? We can have free energy technology, right? We can develop the whole thing and we can give it to the rest of the world for next to nothing, because we'll have more bang for our buck.
Okay, thank you. We can fit one more short question in there. If we just take the gentleman next to you.
Hi, John Henderson. I'm actually from a small town called Preside, quite a wee distance away from here, but I go to uni here. I'm actually a student doctor about to pick my job for the future, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to actually specialise in. And I'm currently under Westminster government, who decide the NHS budget, who I submit inside. I'm being told what job to take and what not to take. Now me, I want to be an accident emergency doctor. Currently in Scotland there's 3 consultant doctors at that level who can treat you for set illnesses here and there. You come in with a broken arm, you know, you go to Glasgow, you go to Aberdeen, you go to Dundee, you go to Edinburgh. That's 4 major hospitals. There's a bunch of hospitals in each one. We know Glasgow's a few, Edinburgh's a couple. There's only 3 doctors there that can treat you as well as they should. Why is that? Because the Westminster government is currently put down our budget for accident emergency care. Now who am I to be like subordinated by Westminster to the extent where I can't pick the job I want within the NHS? I want to help people. I don't come into this establishment to be dictated as to what I can and can't do. I'm here to help you. They're saying there's no problem with this NHS, but if there was no problem, how can I not do the job that I want to?
Yeah. Folks, it's coming up for 8:30. I think we'll maybe take another round of questions, and then we'll probably have to try and wind up in case, unless everybody's got their sleeping bags, we can maybe just stay on night and occupy the building. Can I just say, in relation to my brother's comment, you know, I did read a wee online survey recently. It said that people who swear are more honest. I don't fucking believe it, but anyway. The truth is what the brother said there about currency. Listen, this is the beauty of the Yes campaign. It's a massive big tent. We're all in that tent, and we're all fighting for Yes next Thursday. But see, within the tent, there's disagreements, there's debates. I don't want to share sterling. I don't want the Bank of England to have anything to do with an independent Scotland. I want an independent Scotland to have a publicly owned bank that runs a Scottish currency. That's what I want, an independent Scotland. When it comes to the question of the European Union, SNP say we're in the European Union. I've got to say I disagree. I think the European Union is a corrupt, big bosses club that promotes privatisation of public services. In an independent Scotland, I want a referendum on whether we're in the European Union or not. And when it comes to the SNP's position on a head of state, they say that, oh, we're going to keep the monarchy, it's going to be a slimmed down monarchy. I don't want to put them on a diet, slim fast or any other diet. As far as I'm concerned, in a 21st century democratic country, nobody should have any say over anybody else's life unless they're elected. That's the reality. That's the reality. But think about this. Currency, head of state, European Union, it's all irrelevant unless we get our independence first. That's the reality. And by the way, seeing an independent Scotland, I might lose the currency debate. I might lose the European Union debate. I might lose the head of state debate. But at least the people of Scotland will have decided that, not the southeast of England. That's the reality. And what a wonderful contribution we've had here tonight. What a wonder. I didn't catch your name, brother. Crawford. What a wonderful contribution, eh? Crawford stood up there, trainee doctor. By the way, does it not make you proud?
Is it John Henderson, by the way?
Sorry, I thought you said Crawford. John, does it not make you proud that we've got young men like that who actually care about the profession? We've heard from the likes of Dr. Philippa Whiteford, we've heard from the likes of Professor Alison Pollock about the privatisation of our health service if Scotland votes no. We've now heard from John the reality of what a no vote means. I say to you, who are you going to listen to? Archie McPherson or Ben?
So, excuse me, we have time for 3 very quick questions now. So we're going to take the woman with black hair, just in glasses and a greeny shirt.
Hello, my name is Bobby McPherson, and I've just got one question to see if you could give us any ideas. Tommy, it's just I'm a wee bit concerned over the last couple of weeks, the invitations I've heard to join the negotiating team, Jim Murphy, Gordon Brown, Alistair Darling and Blair, bloody, what's his name? And I just wondered if you had any words of wisdom that we could use. I mean, because I think we should be deciding who's on that table. I certainly don't think it should be everybody else.
My name is Martin Robertson. Thanks very much, Tommy, for mentioning us. I'm a quantity surveyor, it was very kind of you. Interestingly enough, just a wee while ago, I sat on the adjudication panel for the Rural Housing Scotland Committee for the Island Homes design competition. And one of the things that came to the fore with that was the lack of land available for low-cost community housing. Do you not think there's more that we can do to make sure that the landowners who own so much of the land in Scotland have it wrestled out their jaws and it's put to the people to be able to reuse it?
Okay, folks. Look, I apologise if there are people that have other questions. I'm not rushing away, so if you wanted to ask me one or any of the speakers, then please come down afterwards and we'll try and answer them. Can I just take up some of these points? You know, you've probably heard the old story, haven't you, about the gamekeeper and the poacher in Scotland. And the poacher's got the fish on the shoulder, and the gamekeeper says, hey you, they're my fish. You fish for them in my land. And the poacher says, how's it your land? And he says, because my grandfather passed it to my father who passed it to me. And the wee poacher says, how did your grandfather get it? He says, well, his grandfather fought somebody else's grandfather who fought somebody else's grandfather. And the wee poacher took off his jacket and says, man, I'll fight you then. We have in Scotland, brothers and sisters, one of the most unequal distributions of land ownerships in the whole of Europe. Most of them are absent landlords who get subsidised with deforestation and other measures. We pay for the bloody hunting lodges. See, in an independent Scotland, let's make sure that we as a collective people take the land back to where it belongs, to the people, to the people. The sister down here made the point about this negotiating team. Hey, wait a wee minute. Come on. I know Mr. Salmond is trying to be magnanimous, you know, inviting Alistair onto the negotiating team. Does he want to lose? I don't want Alistair Darling, Jim Murphy, or any of the other turncoats and sellouts negotiating on my behalf, brothers and sisters. I think the sister's absolutely right down the front here. We need to have an online campaign for the likes of Jim Sullers and Dennis Canavan to be on the negotiating team. That's what we need. We need people with a wee bit of backbone and a bit of guts, people that you can trust that are going to fight for Scotland's interests over the next 18 months when it comes to the divvying up and the liabilities, when it comes to the divvying up of the resources. We need people in there fighting for our corner that we can trust. So please, take it up online. Make sure we get those type of people on board. What was, sorry, did you ask a particular question? No? No. Okay, was there one more question? No. What was the question? Oh, it was an announcement, sorry. Listen folks, I'm going to sum up my remarks, you know. We have got in here collective energy. We have got democracy in action here. Each and every one of us want an independent Scotland, or at least I hope you do. I hope you do. We may not all have the same vision of what an independent Scotland is going to look like. You may have different priorities for me. You may have different emphasis for me. Can I share? Can I please share with you some of my visions? An independent Scotland. An independent Scotland where when you walk down the Princes Street and Sauchiehall Street in Edinburgh and Glasgow, you're not confronted by people shaking cans in front of you and saying, going to give us a donation because we're trying to get a new MRI scanner for the Children's Hospital. Going to give us a donation because we're trying to solve homelessness. I want us not to need that collection in the streets of Princes Street or Sauchiehall Street, because we're using our resources to make sure there's MRI scanners, to make sure there's enough houses for people to live in. The only people I want in the street of Scotland collecting is your Bomber Robertson and your Jim Murphys. Please give us a wee donation. We want to build a nuclear weapon. That's the only people I want in the streets of Scotland. We've got a chance, brothers and sisters. We've got a chance here. I said earlier about 106 beings. It's been brilliant, it's been tremendous, but it's been a wee bit of an opportunity cost. I'm doubly blessed as a man here. I'm doubly blessed because I've got a beautiful wife and I've got a beautiful daughter. She's only 9 years of age. One of the opportunity costs of travelling across Scotland in this last 9 months is I've missed my wee Wayne putting her arms round me at night and saying good night, Daddy. My wee Wayne at 5 o'clock when I leave the house says to me, Daddy, I don't want you to go to the meeting. I think I have to go to the meeting because I'm fighting for my Wayne's future. You see, the beneficiaries of an independent Scotland, I'm not going to be the 50-year-old man. Aye, we're going to benefit because we're going to live in a better country. But the real beneficiaries of an independent Scotland are the 9-year-olds and the 10-year-olds. That's who's going to benefit. That's who's going to benefit. They're going to be the children growing up in a country with less inequality, with more job opportunities, more training opportunities, more educational opportunities. They're going to grow up in a country that doesn't have nuclear weapons on its doorstep. They're going to grow up in a country that's at peace with itself. They're going to grow up in a country, brothers and sisters, that 25 years from now, I want those daughters sitting on their mother's knees saying, Mummy, what was poverty? Mummy, what was nuclear weapons? Mummy, what was racism? Because we in an independent Scotland can challenge all of that and build a better country for each of us to live in. Let's remember, let's finish with this here. Independence is not a destination. Independence is the start of the journey to transform Scotland into a better country.